I will try to respond to the three questions by trying to recall some aspects of my presentation which I didn't quite emphasize too much. These are all I am hoping that if I am able to explain further some of my points, I will be able to shed some light on the issues that you raised, if not indeed answer the questions directly. When I stressed in my presentation that all complex systems have certain common characteristics, I failed to note that there are some fundamental differences between social systems, societies, institutions, organizations on the one hand, and biological and physical systems on the other. And I think foremost among these differences is the fact that social organizations, institutions are purposeful systems. Changes that take place in these complex systems are not fully random or happening just by chance. They are the result of what are called rational decisions. Now, what do we mean by rationale? What do we mean by rationale? Now, a Nobel laureate in economics, whose name is Vernon Smith, distinguished between two types of rationality. On the one hand, we have what he calls constructivist rationality, being able to solve problems, to do mathematical computations, and so on. On the other hand, there is what he calls ecological rationality, the sort of rationality that is displayed beautifully in nature, which we are only now beginning to appreciate. And the problem that I pose is, how do we change social systems, institutions, organizations, our university? And if we rely completely on rational models of choice, then the current tradition is to change organizations by following certain so-called roadmaps, right? We see where the system was in its past. We know that at the present state is something that we cannot tolerate for too long. We must change the system. And to change the system so that we will reach a desired situation at some point in time in the future, we must do this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in logical sequencing fashion. However, the term roadmap, in my thinking, is not a very good metaphor when we're talking about changing social systems following the logic of complex systems in the biological and in the physical world. Because unlike their counterparts on the road, yung mga nagmamaneho, social planners and organization leaders operate in terrains that are continuously shifting. Each turn that you make leads to new uncertainties, right? There are no GPS voice prompts to tell us what to do next, right? Chances are, therefore, we fail to reach our destinations. No matter how logically designed our roadmap is, we will never reach our destination. So how do we change an institution so that it will be in a more desirable state than it is now? Ang aking suggestion is in a manner of speaking, to tweak the system as it is, to give it the character of a self-organizing, adaptive system. And I recall having showed a slide showing the characteristics of organizations that give them the flexibility, the self-organizing character for them to continue emerging, so to speak, to continue emerging. And so that is my way of changing organization, to tweak the system, to establish a culture that is amenable to change. And I recall, for example, stressing lateral relationships rather than vertical relationships, stressing collaboration, in other words, because by allowing the different elements, components of a system to interact seamlessly among themselves, we are able to capture value which could otherwise be lost if we let each member of the organization doing his or her thing by himself. So collaboration, therefore, is the key to continuous emergence of social systems. I guess that's about all I would want to say.
Can move now into second round. Could we?
Joey La Peña from UP Manila, College of Medicine. I reckon that it's really important you're pointing out the ability to zoom in and out, using the metaphor maybe of a microscope and a telescope, from the subatomic particle to the galactic and universal reality, is an ability that not many possess. We need to search for individuals who are able to do so in their own respective disciplines and get them to interact with one another. But it is not just a matter of zooming in and out, as much as it is a matter of being able to adapt different points of view or perspectives so that we achieve a unified worldview of whatever realities we are looking at. In the context of the university, I think it also has to do with the space and time contexts that different people may have. From the very narrow here and now context of those who probably don't make it into the university, sad to say, the majority of people in the university probably have a wider but not wide enough space-time context of their turf and their lifetime. And unfortunately, that still is insufficient. We need people who are able to have a space-time context that embraces the world and history at a minimum. People who are able to navigate between the spheres, for example, of the lithosphere, the atmosphere, and the hydrosphere, which are in constant interaction, the biosphere and the sociosphere, if you want, and even what Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere of consciousness. That would be a minimum for a university person. Two, people whose space and time contexts are able to expand to include infinity and eternity. So, we need Renaissance people. We need people who are not only able to expand their space and time contexts, look at things from different points of view, but zoom in and out as well while communicating this with like-minded people. And that communication takes many forms, from an artwork to a sculpture, a poem, to a graph, or to a research paper.
Thank you. Two more comments first? One or two more comments para sabay-sabay ng responses. Yes, Fidel. Dr. Fidel Nemenso. From math. Dr. Yap mentioned how the mathematical models. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
What really drew my attention, my interest to complexity was my being invited to the thesis defense of three PhD students from physics. No? So, marami kasing work sa complexity nanggagaling sa physics. And these were very interesting projects. No? One was an analysis of classroom behavior. How do you organize a classroom so that you optimize learning inside the classroom? One was an analysis of journalistic texts. No? How do you analyze newspaper articles? Another one was an analysis of multi-level marketing. And a very interesting one was a study on disambiguation of poetry and prose. You know? So all of these projects were published in physics texts. Nakakagulat. In fact, as a panel member, my first question is, what is physics? You know, because it's very strange that this is what physics is now. No? My point here is that the complexity theory really offers a framework for understanding various sorts of phenomena, from physical, biological, and social phenomena. It's very powerful, but I also pointed out my discomfort in this over quantification of things. I really think that the key to understanding complex phenomena requires us to leave this trap of overly using science. In fact, Boto Kano used that word, a trap, no, of overly quantifying things and offering science and scientific models, no, as the true models of scientific behavior. Gusto ko na i-point out yon. In fact, I come from mathematics. I'm supposedly the most objective of all disciplines. But the more I practice mathematics, the more I realize that mathematics itself is culturally embedded, culturally situated, and that even mathematics behavior differs from culture to culture. So that's why I really like this idea of a conversation between people from different disciplines, because the key understanding is not to limit ourselves to our disciplinal boxes, but looking at the broad view. I've been emailing VP Giselle about, I think, the need to put up a Center for Complexity Studies. It's a very exciting area. I think it will, it's really a platform for a truly transdisciplinary study of things, rather than a center for the application of models and methods of science to understanding human society.
Thank you, Fidel. May I just add here, Dr. Giovanni Tapang, also of the physics department. Some of you may have noticed he made it into the Inquirer's front page with a project with his students looking at doing network analysis of the Napoles pork scandals. No?